Okay, everyone. We're going to start in about 2 minutes. I'm just going to give a few latecomers just maybe 2 more minutes. We have a few people online and a few people here that are present. So we'll just wait 2 more minutes and then I'll get going. Yeah. Okay, everyone, we'll get started then, if everybody's okay. So just to be clear, I've had this talk with the students already, but in order for it to work, I think it's obviously great to keep the parents informed. It's a tough couple of months this is going to be for the 6th-year students. And every year, you wouldn't believe the amount of students across the country that don't fill out the CAO correctly. On average, about 7,000 students a year pull out of first-year college as well. And I think actually the statistics for last year still haven't come out yet. And I think the big reason for that is because I think even the dropout was even more than that. So maybe you're sitting there having a little bit of an idea in the CAO, or maybe you're not 100% sure on it. So hopefully I can iron out the creases and give you just a bit more of an insight into it. And I'm available for questions at the end if you want to put them into the chat box for the people that are online, and for the people that are present here, they can come up to me at the end as well. Okay. So I think a good place to start off would be with the CAO handbook. Now, most years or every year, students would usually get a CAO handbook, but unfortunately, due to COVID this year, they haven't been given out. Now, there is a CAO handbook online. If you go to www.cao.ie, that's cao.ie, you can get a virtual book and you can download it. Because the recommended advice is that all students read through it properly. So that's a really important document. On it then, in that virtual, you'll see the yellow pages are all the courses. And that should give a bit of an insight for the students that can be really helpful as well. Okay. Okay. So what I like to start off with when talking to the students on the CAO is I like to put up this particular slide. This slide, okay, you're very welcome. Come on in. That's no problem. You're fine. You're okay. So this slide then gives you an idea. It's the NFQ, the National Framework of Qualifications. So the thing behind this slide is that the students can actually see where they are presently and maybe see where they're planning on going. So the level 4 and 5 is the actual leaving cert. And then the level 6 and 7 are ordinary degrees, and the level 8 are higher degrees. The level 6 and 7 ordinary degrees usually consist to 2 to 3 years. And the level 8 degrees usually consist to 3 to 4 years. So you will find that the level 8 degrees, the points are a little bit higher because you're moving up the ladder, so to speak, okay, in regards to getting qualified. Now, sometimes when I'm explaining this to the students wouldn't be altogether very interested and say, God, Carl, you're boring us here. But then I explain to them that if they go for looking for a job or employment, obviously the higher up the ladder they are, the more chance they have of earning a bit more money, and then that usually gets their attention, you know. So you can see there that the level 9 then is the postgrad diploma, and the level 10 is the doctorate. So I would say to the students, then they can get into a position of actually, when they're going into an interview, they can actually even negotiate a salary. Now, it's not all about money, I'm well aware of that, but it does help. So just to be clear on it again, the level 6 and 7 are the ordinary degrees, and the level 8 are the higher degrees. So the students will get the opportunity to pick 10 choices from level 6 and 7 and 10 choices from level 8. Okay, and I'll explain that a little bit further as time goes on. Okay, so this is the whole point system, which is extremely important, and I'm talking to the students about this day in, day out. I'm having them in the office and I'm talking to them like what their top 6 subjects are. Ideally, if your son or daughter has 7 higher subjects, it's great because they've 1 in reserve. The CAO computer will automatically pick the students' top 6 subjects. I sometimes hear parents saying to me, yeah, well, maths will have to be included in that, or chemistry will have to be included in that. That's not the case. It will automatically pick the top 6 subjects, no matter what they are. Okay, so the highest amount of points that a student can accumulate through these particular points and through the particular sitting of the Leaving Cert is 625. Obviously, 100 multiplied by 6 is 600, and then you get an added 25 points for higher level maths. Now, it's important as well because there's 25 bonus points awarded for higher level maths, but they must get a H6 and above. So if they get a H7, they'll still get their 37 points, but they won't get the added 25. So that's important, okay, because that would happen to students throughout the country year in, year out, where they spend so much time doing the higher level maths, and it's a bit counterproductive because it's taken away from their other subjects, and they've only maybe got their H7. Don't get me wrong, they've got their 37, but they've missed out on that added 25 bonus points as well. Now, a pass in ordinary level maths is essential for entry to the majority of courses. So if the higher level is getting too difficult, ordinary level is an option. But the students who fail to pass to get a pass grade in maths will obviously limit their choice. Just as a matter of interest, there's 571 courses except foundation maths. I'm not standing up here saying your son or daughter should do foundation maths, but obviously passing foundation maths is an awful lot better than failing ordinary. Okay, so just to mention there of matriculation requirements as well. So basically what that means is that there's certain subjects required for certain courses. So you need your higher level Irish for primary school teaching. If you're not doing higher level Irish, you won't be able to do primary school teaching. Doesn't matter how many points you get. Same with higher maths for engineering courses a lot of the time, chemistry for veterinary. Then there's the restricted courses. So restricted courses is where there's an added extra in order to do the course. So for example, veterinary, there'll be some work experience associated with it. And sometimes these courses could accumulate to maybe 700 points. Now, let me be clear because it sounds like I'm contradicting myself. I've just told you the highest amount of points you can get are 625. So why would I be talking about 700 points or 750 points? The extra points there can come in if a student has to go for an audition. For example, if it's a drama course or if it's an art course, extra points might go for a portfolio that they might have to submit. Or as I said, an audition or a dance or even an interview. So that's where you might see some courses on the CAO handbook that are up at that 700 points or 725. So them particular courses, you have to sign up for them a bit earlier than the other courses. Why? So that the interviews can take place, or so that the portfolios can be corrected and so on. So in the last couple of years, we've had this calculated grades due to COVID. Ironically enough, I've been doing calculated grades since I became principal in the school 5 years ago, because I would get the students in individually in May and actually sit down with them and actually say to them, okay, how do you think you're going to get on realistically? We have all the results because there's exams here every 6 weeks. So realistically, we can get a good idea of where the students are going to come in at. Now, you wouldn't believe some years I would actually get on the button the exact amount of points that a student would get. Now, that's not really compliment to me. It's actually compliment to the student, really, because they have great self-awareness themselves and they're being realistic about it. And that can really help then when they're actually picking their choices, because it gives a realistic view on what they can get and maybe perhaps what they can't. So it's no harm to start doing up the points when you go home with your son or daughter, just to get an idea on where they're going to come in at. The students are probably sick of me saying this, but I always think like the 6 H4s is a good measuring stick. A H4 is between 60 and 70%. So it's not bad going, between 60 and 70%, and you get 66 points for that, okay, in a higher level paper. And 6 of them is 396 points. So that's why if you hear a student getting 400 points and above, it's not bad going. They've done well in their leaving cert. They've got between 60 and 70%. So if you see a course that's 500 points and above, you know then the student has to get into that H3 category. You know, they have to get up at that 70%. So even when I'm thinking about filling out the reports there, I put in for a couple of students' comments, detail is going to be the key. So the more detail you can get in your answers, obviously, the higher marks you're going to get. So that's obviously all worth knowing, okay? Okay, so there's 2 boxes that need to be ticked in the Central Applications Office process, okay? So the first box that needs to be ticked is the matriculation requirements. So is the student doing the correct subjects for the particular course that they want to do? That's the first box that needs to be ticked. A bit like what I said to you, if the student isn't doing higher level Irish, they're not going to get through primary school teaching. Doesn't matter if they get 625 points, they haven't got the right matriculation requirement. The second box then that needs to be ticked is the points. Okay, so that's the way the CAO does it in that order. All eligible applicants are then placed in a list in order of points they achieve for each course they apply for. Okay, so here's just maybe a couple of examples that just might, just go through what I've just explained. So there's primary school teaching in DCU, for example. Okay, the entry requirements, okay, so points, history is 488. That was in 2019. Just to give you a bit of an idea how the points have actually increased, it's now 518, okay? The minimum subjects are 3 H5s and 3 06 and a H7. You need an 04 or H7 in English. So there's the matriculation requirement. If you don't get that, you're not going to get into the course. And you need a H4 in Irish. So again, this is really important because really it's a good idea to actually have this conversation in TY actually, really, because no wonder then if a student is interested in primary school teaching, to spend a year or two in the grad talk because they're aware they need a H4 in Irish. But even for students now, that's why they should be given a little bit more study time for the Irish if they want to be primary school teachers, because they obviously know it's a requirement. I need a 04 H7 in maths. Here's like science, another example. The point history was 4.5 in 2019. That's actually came down, okay, to 4.44. And then you can see the various minimum subjects or requirements that are needed there as well, okay? Now, when you go in to these particular courses and Google them and go on Qualifax and Careers Portal, and I'll give you them websites in a few minutes, or the CAO Handbook, you will actually get all this information on them websites as well, okay? Okay, so here's veterinary medicine, and you might say, well, why are you giving this example? The reason I'm giving this example is because it ticks all the boxes that I've just spoken about, really, and I think it's a good example. So you can see, remember, go back to the national framework qualifications we had, okay, the ladder. You can see it's a level 8, okay? It's a full-time undergraduate study. The code is DN300. So when your son or daughter is filling out the CAO application, they won't be putting in anything about primary school teaching, or they won't be putting in anything about veterinary, they'll be just putting in a particular code. And they've got to make sure to put the code down correctly, because I've had examples of that where students, for some reason or another, they didn't put the correct code down. It has happened, you know, and then they wonder why they didn't get the particular course. So whether it's a lapse in concentration, I don't know. So, but you can see the points in 2019 was 589, now 601. So it's huge, okay? So that's really, really competitive. And the reason it's so competitive is because of the demand for the particular course. There's only 82 spaces up for grabs in all of Ireland to do veterinary, which is ridiculous, really, okay? But that's the reality, and that's the challenge that students are faced with. So hence the reason I'm helping students year in, year out go to Budapest to do veterinary. So, and various different other places. So the Leaving Cert, you need a H5 in chemistry. That's it. That's the matriculation requirement. If you're not getting that, you're not going to get into do veterinary. You can see a few other things. Their applicants must apply to CAO no later than the 1st of February. So if you don't apply before the 1st of February, you're not going to get in. And the reason there's that date on that is because it's a restricted course, because usually there'll be 60 hours practical experience required, but due to COVID, there's now only 15 hours. So that's where the student may need to work on a farm or working with animals and getting the farmer or the vet to sign off on that as well. Ironically enough, it just thought it was an interesting fact. Biology at Leaving Cert is not required, but it's strongly recommended. You would tend to think biology would be a requirement for veterinary, but it's actually not. You know, so I'm always talking to students to find a system that's going to get them into the course. Okay, you can worry how well you're going to doing it once you get into it, but it's just to find a system that's going to work best for each student. Okay, so just quickly, I'm just going to talk about this. This is the higher education access route to third level admission. This is a scheme for school leavers from social, economic, deprived backgrounds. So if both parents aren't working or if parents are unwell, there's an opportunity for colleges to let students in on reduced points. There's a quota of places on reduced points for here students. So basically, this is where there's a bit of paperwork obviously involved in this, and there's proof of entitlement. But it goes down to, as I've already said, whether both parents are working or not, number of dependent children in your family, family income, sibling, parents enrolled in full-time college, university, or how many maybe sons or daughters you already have at third level, okay? Now, these students can get into college at reduced points. You might be sitting there saying, yeah, well, Carl, how much reduced points? There's no set reduced points. It depends on the college and the particular course that you're doing. So that's the higher education access route to third level, okay? Then there's the disability access route to education. So if your son or daughter has ADD or ADHD or visually impaired, and they're found school a little bit more difficult for one reason or another, obviously you need to require the proof of disability. You might need to get a psychologist's report, a doctor's report. Maybe you'd have missed out on an awful lot of school last year or the year previous due to not being well. Them students can get into a course on reduced points as well. The main purpose of the disability access route to education isn't reduced points. The main purpose of there is that the college is aware of what disability your son or daughter has, so that they're ready for the student coming in, if that makes sense, okay? Every college, just the bottom, the line at the bottom there, every college has a learning support service. How good that support service is, maybe up for debate, okay? But every college has one. But as you can see here, you need to apply by February 1st to the CAO, and March 1st you must indicate you wish to be considered for DARE by ticking yes to question 1, okay? Now there's a page that I've given to the parents here that has an awful lot of times and deadlines and dates, which is really important, and I'll put that up on the website tomorrow so everybody can avail of it. It's actually the first page of the CAO Handbook, and the reason I photocopied that page so the parents can have it, because they might just print it out and just put it on the fridge at home, or put it in the sons or daughters room or on the wall so that they don't miss the particular deadline. What I've said to the students here when I gave this talk about 2 weeks ago, I said, let's start the process immediately, okay? It's opened, the CAO, it's open since November the 5th. So the sooner they apply, the better. Now, sometimes your son or daughter may say, I'm not filling out the CAO yet. Why? Because I don't know what courses I'm going to pick. They don't need to know the courses yet. That's absolutely fine if they don't know the courses, but they can still register now, okay? So sooner rather than later. So here's just a little bit of financial support as well. It's a SUSI grant, the Student University Support Ireland, okay? Sometimes people, when I start talking about this straight away say to themselves, no, well, I'm on the higher tax bracket. There's no chance in hell of me getting a SUSI grant. But there actually is. Just don't assume you're not entitled to a grant just because you're on the higher level of income tax. You wouldn't believe the amount of students that are actually entitled to that, but because they've actually haven't applied, they don't end up getting it, you know. So there's an eligibility reckoner, there's a means test, and this opens in April. Okay, so If you go onto www.susie.ie, you get more information on that, okay? Susie.ie. Your application will be assessed on gross income from all sources. When Susie received your completed application, they will post you a personalised document checklist. And that's an important line because that's the same with applying through the CAO as well. If you don't get confirmation of it, it hasn't happened. So just to be aware of that, okay? Which colleges are private? The likes of the American College, Dublin Business School, you'll find their courses, the points are actually quite low. And the reason for that is because there's tuition fees that incur with them particular courses. The SUSI grant does not cover them particular courses, okay? So just you need to be aware of that as well. But that's maybe just some financial support that can help you along the way. Okay, just listen to this lady here now for a second.
Go to cao.ie and click on Apply. You'll be brought to the online application form where you'll first be asked to enter your personal details, so your name, your date of birth, your address, and your other contact details, your email address and your telephone number. It's extremely important that you enter this information correctly. You'll also be asked to tick the qualifications and assessment section that is relevant to you. Then you'll be brought to a screen where you'll be asked to enter your payment details. When you've entered your payment details, you click on Proceed with Application, and the screen will pop up with your application number. It's extremely important to keep your application number safe, as you'll need this number to log in to your account using the My Application facility. You'll also receive an email containing your CAO application number and all of the details that CAO holds on file. You can use the My Application facility to enter your course choices. Simply log in with your CAO application number, your date of birth, and the password that you created at the application stage. You can then go to Add Level 7, 6, and Level 8 course choices list to introduce the courses that you are interested in applying for. You'll also have an option to indicate whether you wish to apply for SUSI. You'll also be given an option to apply for the Disability Access Route to Education and the Higher Education Access Route to Education. You can make changes to your application at regular intervals throughout the application process. You can change some of your personal details and edit your course choices. You may also add additional information as requested or required, so you still have time to research your courses, find out about minimum entry requirements, etc. Please take note of the important deadlines and the change of mind closing dates. There's also a demo application facility available on the CAO website. You should try this demo application facility in advance of making your own application, and also ask your guidance counsellor for advice. But the really important thing is that you log on, get your application number, start your application, and don't leave everything to the last minute. We hope you found this video helpful, and we wish you best of luck with your application.
Okay, so some good advice there. So that's the main page that she was actually talking about. That's the page in order to apply. You can see the little green box there at the top to apply, my application and so on. And it is really important, that advice she gave about trying to remember your passwords. Like, you wouldn't believe, year in, year out, parents are ringing me up wanting to know what their son or daughter's password is. Now, I'm good, but I'm not that good. Like, you know, so they have to take responsibility for this themselves, because obviously it's really, really important. Just something else to consider as well, that sometimes people, when they're giving this particular talk, don't tend to mention, is I just have available places there in black writing there, and I have an arrow that goes down to the left. When the round 1 offers come out, and the round 2 offers and round 3 offers, and to see what 6 and 7 choices the students have got, and what level 8 choices they've got. If for some reason a student hasn't got any offers, for one reason or another, they haven't filled it out properly, or the Leave Cert hasn't gone according to plan, at the end of all the offers, this will be over here on the left-hand side, available places. And basically what that means is that's where the colleges actually advertise to say that there's actually some spaces provided in their particular course. for some reason or other, the students haven't taken up that place. Now, I don't know if that's what the students or your son or daughter is going to be happy with, what's on offer there, but it is another option, because I had a student, I think it was 2 years ago, that came into me in September and said that he wanted to repeat his Leaving Cert. And I asked him, well, what courses did you wanted to do? And it was actually unavailable lists. He just didn't have the information, so there was no need for him to do the Leaving Cert at all. Okay, so that's just another option. Okay, so just to recap, to apply early, use the online option. The online system will not accept a discontinued course. Now, discontinued course, what I mean by that, that when you look at the yellow pages on the CAO Handbook, not every course will go ahead. Like, 95, 96, 97% of the courses will go ahead. But for one reason or another, some courses just won't go ahead. So it'll be discontinued. So if you put in that course code, and if the course is discontinued, it won't go through. Okay. But it will accept the wrong course code. And so it's important that the students take a bit of time to make sure to put in the right course code. An online application demo is available as well on the CAO. If you haven't received an email or text confirming your registration, it hasn't happened. Once you receive your application number, you can log into your account at any time, and it is possible to change your mind. It is possible. So it's not a kind of sense of, I'm putting these courses down now, it's going to be written in cement. No, it is possible to change your mind. And I make this point very clear to the students as well, that they can change their mind up till the 1st of July. So what does that mean? That basically means about nearly 10 days after they're finished their Leaving Cert exams. So sometimes I find students, and they're getting very overwhelmed. I don't know what course to put down. Slow down. Take your time. You've got plenty of time still to decide. Even when the Leaving Cert is over and you finish your exams, you can still go back in and change. Okay? So they just, they need to be aware of that, because I think sometimes they get a little bit overwhelmed, and then they're not focusing on the courses, and they're not focusing on the Leaving Cert, and they're a little bit all over the place. Okay, so that's why I'm encouraging them to try and get going at the process as soon as they can, because I suppose as time goes on, they're going to have the orals soon enough, and obviously the studying should be intensifying as well as time goes on. So here's the challenge, or here's what the students are going to be faced with: the 10 options from level 8 and the 10 options from level 7 and 6. Okay. So they need to make a considered and informed choice. Okay, so I think that's good advice. 1, 2, and 3 should be their dream courses. So if you get a sense that your son or daughter is coming in around that 450 points, but if the course that they want to do is 500 points and they really love to do it, put it at number 1. So even if it's a little bit outside their points range, because you don't want to underestimate how well they're going to do. Okay, and I've seen that happen where a student might say, I'd love to do that course that's 550 points. But you know what, I'll never get it, so I'll just put it down at number 4. Then all of a sudden, they do their Leaving Cert, get 580 points, and then that course is not even offered, which is really, really frustrating, So this is the best way to fill it out. Fill it out 1, 2, and 3, your dream courses, what you'd really love to do. You could nearly even almost ignore the points for 1, 2, and 3, okay? 4, 5, 6, and 7, then they're actually matching up with what's realistic. That's where I come in. That's where I sit down with them and I actually say, well, realistically, I don't think you're going to jump from a H4 to a H1. I can't see that happening. So we can get a sense of what points, or I can get a sense of what points they're going to accumulate. And if it's 450, all them courses are 4, 5, 6, and 7 are maybe 420, 450, 460, 470, or 480. So it's kind of realistic on what they're going to get. Then 8, 9, 10 banker courses. So if that student, we get a sense they're going to get 450, the banker courses then are 400 points, 350 points, 300 points. So in case the Leaving Cert doesn't go according to plan, they have a backup. Now, I think this is extremely important. We had, I think it was 7 or 8 students last year that got 625 points, which was great, and fair play to them. They worked so hard and they deserved it. But 2 of them students didn't get any course. Okay, so maybe, I know they might be totally focused on what they want to do, whether it was veterinary or medicine, but you need to embrace other options as well. So I'm trying to encourage students to keep an open mind. I know they can say it to me, but that's easy for you to say, Carol. It is important not to put all your eggs into one basket. Ideally, what I want for the students is to be offered a level 8 course and offered a level 6 and 7. So that can happen, be offered a level 6 and 7 and offered a level 8, and then you can decide which you want to take. Okay, so you will only be offered one of the choices. Okay, now I'll explain this in a little bit more detail as well, because it can be a little bit complicated. Okay, so how the places are located. Colleges tell CAO how many places are to be offered on each course. Remember, we had that with UCD and Veterinary 82. Okay, CAO then makes offers to the required number of applicants on each course, starting with the applicant with the highest points and working down until enough places have been offered. So we're going to just look at a little example here. We're going to follow this little man in red here. These are the applicants for CK 101. So there's the code for arts and UCC. The examination results have not yet been released. So these applicants are in no particular order. We're going to trace the progress of the applicant marked in red. So as you can see there, CK 101, they put that at number 1 because that's their dream course and that's what they really love to do. There's the second choice and there's the third choice and so on, all the way down to 10. Now remember, they don't have to fill out all 10. If they just want to fill out 2 or 3, they can do that as well, but there's 10 options. So you can see then there's lots of applicants then going for the particular courses that this student is going for. Results are issued. Applicants are placed in a queue for each course to apply for. Their position in the queue is determined by the points. The applicant with the highest points is placed in the top of the queue. The points achieved by the applicant in red determines the position in the queue for each course he or she applied to. Okay, so when we look at this then here, okay, so we can see then that this student has just missed out on this course. So all of the green applicants, all the applicants in green have got in. So the guy in red is just missed out by 1. The applicant marked in green have enough points to be offered places. The applicant marked in red has enough points for the second preference. So immediately CAO will come along and check to see if the matriculation requirements right. Are the points right? Yes. So this course will be offered to the student. Now what needs to be made clear is that immediately, once this course is offered, which is the second choice, everything else underneath that will be deleted. Okay, everything else underneath that will be deleted. The first choice will remain there, and the second choice will remain there, obviously, because it was offered. Okay. Now, so that leaves you with them 2 choices then. Is that okay? Yeah. So the student is actually still in the running for their first choice. And let me explain. The applicant in red is offered his second preference, the highest preference course that he has enough points for, and he will now disappear from the queue in all his lower choices. Okay, so the decision the student then has to make is whether they're going to accept this course or not. Now, if they fill the CAO out properly, where 1, 2, and 3 are their dream courses, they should really be looking to accept that, because then at least they have a course for themselves, and it's up at the very top of their list. They're still in the running for the first choice as well. You didn't get your first CAO choice, but you were offered one of your lower choices. What do you do? If you received an offer, your first decision must be to accept it or not. Don't assume that the points for your higher choice preference will decrease. Now you have the assurance of a third level place, and your name is still in the running for a place in any of your preferred courses. Why might you still be in the running? You might still be in the running because the applicants, these particular applicants, the ones in green, might decide to defer for a year. They might decide to not take that particular course. They might decide to travel for a year. They might decide to do work experience for a year. So when a couple of them drop out, then that's going to leave the opportunity for the person in red to be offered the course. Now, the key point I want to explain here is, and I end up answering this about I don't know how many times a year, and I can understand why. Sometimes the students don't accept that course, the second choice, because they feel if they accept the second choice, they won't be offered the first. I want to be clear in saying to you that if the student accepts a lower place, if a higher place becomes available, it will be offered. Okay. So if a higher place becomes available, they will be offered it, no matter if they've accepted a lower choice or not. Okay. And that's really important because when students get their exams rechecked, the offer might actually only come in September. You understand? Okay, so that's really, really important. And the student might actually say, no, well, I'm actually settled where I am. It's too late now to move, or themselves, or the field don't you. But if a higher place becomes available, it will be offered. Okay, so that's really, really important. All right. Okay, so the key thing is that you can move up, but you can't move down. And if you're putting the course choices in order of preference, that shouldn't be a problem. Okay. Okay, here's a couple of common mistakes. Failure to read the handbook. Applying to a college course because it's where your friends are. And that worries me sometimes because you see friends sometimes, even before COVID, used to all go up to the college open days and used to think, God, we'll all be here next year. It doesn't tend to work out that way, you know. So don't underestimate how well you may do. They missed the portfolio or interview deadline for the art course, or a particular course that has a restriction. You're on holidays in early August and you didn't respond to your offers. And you only put down 1 or 2 courses. Okay, so your options are very, very limited. Okay, so maybe the student hasn't done their homework. And over 1,000 students who score over 500 points each year receive no offers. That's because they haven't filled the CAO properly. You know, where they've got 510, but every course that they wanted to do was 515, 520, 550, everything above. So they had no security in it. Okay. Another option then, guys, is Ucas. Okay, to apply to college in the UK. Brexit hasn't seemed to interfere with this as much as we would have thought. Scotland, the fees aren't overly expensive. If you want to do dentistry, medicine, or veterinary, you need to apply by October. That deadline's gone. Okay, so we have to go your students out with that. But this is still open, January the 15th for all our courses. Okay, if the student wants to apply to the UK and they're really passionate about doing the course and don't want to put all their eggs into one basket with the CAO, we will help them out with expected grades and leaving cert. So basically, that's where I'd sign off on what expected grades I think they're going to get. I usually let the students tell me what they think they're going to get, and I sign off on it, and it's up to them to go and get it. Really, you know, okay. But I do encourage them to be realistic on it. Personal statement, then, that's basically where the student writes 600 words on where they're selling themselves to the college. Not how the college is going to benefit them, how they're going to benefit the college. Once you get in, then you can work about how the college is going to benefit you. A reference then needs to be done. They get all the information on ucas.com. So apply to college then in Europe. I'm going to have a guy in the next few weeks. I'll keep you informed. Guy Flouch is his name. He's the head guy of Ucas. He's going to come in and give a little bit of a talk on colleges in Europe as well. But that's becoming more and more popular, as I've already said. An awful lot of students going to Warsaw and Budapest, maybe even through veterinary. There's no tuition fees in Denmark, Germany, and Sweden. So sometimes when we hear that, we tend to think, well, sure, there mustn't be any good. Every university in Holland is higher ranked than UCD. Just, you know, every university in Holland. All the courses are taught in English. Only negative is that if there's a maths component in the course, it'll be at a higher level again. As difficult as the maths is here in Ireland, we're nowhere near Europe with regards to the maths. So I don't know what the problem with that is, whether it's primary school or start of secondary school. But the maths isn't up at a particularly high level if you look at Europe as a whole. Okay. But almost half the year, first year veterinary science are in Warsaw, Budapest, or Irish. So there is an awful lot more people. And an interesting fact that you can actually take your SUSI grant with you. The SUSI grant that you get here, you can actually bring it over to Europe as well. So it definitely is maybe an option where maybe rather than your son or daughter going to Galway or, you know, down the country or whatever it is, or, you know, it's also another option. So keep the options opened. Now, post-leaving cert courses, we want to talk about these for a minute. These are PLC courses, okay? The PLC courses are level 5. They're nothing to do with CAO, okay? So that's separate from the CAO. You apply directly to the college for these, and this is usually open in around February. Here's some of the examples of the colleges, Coloshtida, so in Ballyfermot College. You apply by applying directly to the college. PLC courses may be eligible for a maintenance grant only from SUSI as well, okay? But these can act as stepping stones. Now, just say your son or daughter is actually quite an anxious student. I think it's no harm to apply to a PLC course, because then they have the reassurance of actually getting into college, even without the points. So if you get a sense they're actually quite stressed out with regards to the points, maybe you have to do a PLC course. They'll just have to go for a little interview. It won't be overly competitive, but they'll have the reassurance, and it might actually make them sit the leaving cert with a little bit more confidence as well. So it's an option, and it can act as a stepping stone then onto a level 6 or 7 course. An important question with the PLC is what percentage of the students that finish the level 5 go on to level 6 and 7. So if the student is reliant on it, they'll want to know what percentage, because sometimes it can be just a small percent of the students that do the PLC course that move on to 6 and 7, because their exam results have to be really good. What can you do? You could do journalism, media, photography, pre-nursing. So maybe your son or daughter might say to you this evening or something, actually, you know what, I'm not going to go to college next year. And, you know, that can be a little bit of a, parents can get really frightened with that sometimes. They can understand that as well. But you might say, well, would you think of doing a PLC course? Because they might actually even defer their level 8. That means they don't have to do the level 8 next year. You can have it the following year, okay? And they'll be assured of that. and maybe do a PLC. So rather than going straight into a level 8 in nursing, why not do a PLC in pre-nursing? See, do you like it? Because it'll give you a very good foundation for that level 8 as well. And there's really good working experience involved in it as well. There's just some of the examples of what you can do, okay? I actually myself went to Class D, the PLC course, a sports course. I really enjoyed it up with English. My friends were kind of going one way, I was going the other. I was lucky enough to get a soccer scholarship to America. So there is a bit of a stigma associated with the PLC courses, but it can work out as well. So who and what can help? Representatives from colleges. I've had a lady in from Maynooth who gave an excellent talk. I have a guy coming in from Limerick who's going to give an excellent talk on business as well. And when I'm giving them talks, I'll actually, I didn't do it last time, I'll maybe let the parents know about them as well, because if they want to hear the representatives talk, I've been doing this a while, so I really try and get the representatives that sell the courses really well. The guy I actually have coming from Limerick is excellent. He gives an excellent talk on business. Now you might sit down there saying, my son or daughter doesn't want to go to Limerick, but they may talk about a course, and I might draw in one of the students' interests, maybe who can do a similar course in UCD or Trinity as well. So it's definitely worth listening. Make sure you're asking the good questions to the representatives as well. Work experience. I find sometimes work experience for students in 6th year can be beneficial. I know you might say you're contradicting yourself, Carl. I know study is really important, and it is absolutely hugely important. But maybe even a day or two, during the midterm break, maybe to work in the pharmacy or to work in the solicitors might just give that 6th year student that just maybe understanding of what they really want to do. So that's an option as well during the midterm break. Speak to relatives. I encourage students to speak to relatives, because sometimes relatives are already working in something that they'd like to do. I even ask sometimes students come up to me and say, I really want to be a biology teacher, Carl. Will you tell me about that? I might say, well, do you think you're talking to Brendan? He is a biology teacher. To talk to a teacher that's actually in the school. Okay. Talk to maybe friends who are in 3rd level at the moment. Keep the parents informed, and obviously speak to myself. A productive study routine is really okay. That can obviously really help, because that's going to maximum the points the student has a chance to get. Now, I don't know if your son or daughter rushed home telling you that I get them out a personal study schedule there about 2 weeks ago. But they all have one of these, and I have them in there so that they can get them, where basically on Sunday evening, I'm encouraging them to fill that out. Like, they're entitled to a break as well, but maybe on Sunday between 7 and 8, that they would fill that out for the week, where they put in their classes, and then they can put in what they should be studying before and after, and so on. Okay, so that's something that a lot of students are finding really helpful. And there's a few squares as well for Saturday and Sunday as well. Okay, but they need to get that balance right. So just the productive study routine is really important, because, as I've just already said, to maximize the chance to have and get the most points possible. If the student wants to do a course that's 420 and they get 440, brilliant. They got into the course, that's great. But if they drop out, then they've only got a surplus of 440 points. So if they want to try and apply to the CAO the next year, they've only got 440. So that's why I always say to them, you can get 500, why not try again? Because it could leave a few more doors open. But this is really important, and I think this is what probably frustrates me year in, year out, is that the students don't look at this enough. I can't do this for them, but they're trying to encourage them to look beyond the label of the course. So there's a Bachelor of Science in Psychology. You can get this on the websites I'm going to give at the end of the talk, where the student is very much aware what happens year 1, year 2, 3, and 4. So they get a great sense of whether they really enjoy it or not. I'm just wondering if students actually availed of this a little bit more. Would the dropout be down an awful lot less? Because students come to me and say, no, Carl, I want to do that course. And I'd say, why? Because in the 3rd year, I get to study abroad. They say, well, why are you going to do the 1st year? And why are you going to do the 2nd year? That's great and everything, but to try and look at it step by step, you're never going to find a course that you're going to enjoy 100%. But if you can start looking through these particular components of the course and the modules, you might get an understanding of what you want to go towards or not, okay? Okay. So as I said, on average, 7,000 students drop out. Okay. Why? They're choosing the college, not the course. I chose the course, not the college. It's really, really important. Sometimes students say to me, look, I just want to go to Trinity. If you're enjoying the course, it probably won't really matter too much what the college is. Do you understand? So choosing the college and not courses. So it's very important to go for the course. They're following their friends. They form bad habits. Now, what I mean by that is, leaving cert is very much about studying. And sometimes when they go into college, there's not as, obviously, the leaving cert is the toughest exam that they'll probably ever do. There's not as much of an assessment. So what tends to happen is to drop off doing the study altogether, and then the results aren't good. So I think what colleges are starting to do now is to give a little bit more continuous assessment for them. Pressure to please mum and dad or both. No care given to the CAO, and sometimes for one reason or another, they're just not ready. I know that's not the answer you want to hear, but sometimes they're maybe not that mature enough for one reason or another. How disappointing and sad is it for young people to climb the ladder of education only to find once they reach the top, the ladder is leaning against the wrong wall. Like I just spoke to a student there the other day who said like that he wanted to get into medicine because I got a sense from that because all his family was involved in it, you know, but I got a sense from that he wasn't really passionate about it himself, you know. Okay, so it's just to give them a little bit of space to kind of work it out. It's okay not to know. I still don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, I think. Okay, so for some students, it's simple enough to have that pathway, and it's kind of straight line. I'm going to start this year, and in 4 or 5 years, I'm going to get to be that vet, I'm going to get to be that professional, whatever it is. Okay, but for other people, similar to myself, it's probably a little bit more like the roundabout idea, where you went down one road and then went back the other. So just to try and give the students that reassurance that there's multiple pathways to any given career outcome, and there's multiple changes of direction or commonplace. So once you're under the umbrella of the third level, there's loads of opportunities. There's opportunities to transfer, maybe to go from UCD to Trinity, if the course is similar. Okay, so it's okay not to know. What's not okay is if the students aren't investing a bit of time in it now to try and work out over the Christmas holidays, maybe over the midterm break, or a little bit of time at the weekend. Okay, so you're making an informed decision, as we've already said, okay? And you're making the best decision you can with the information you have at the time. So I was trying to explain this to the students. It's a bit like driving the car in the dark. You can only see a little bit, a certain part in front of you, okay? The rest of the road will reveal itself in time. So don't be trying to think too much, because I find sometimes with students might tend to think, you know, well, I'll be qualified by that age, and then I'll get married at that age, and then I'll have the house at that. That's not reality, okay? So an awful lot of time, which is which we tend to know, but so just to talk to them a little bit about that. And I put this up as well for them because I'm not going to talk too much about this, but the front part of your brain is the prefrontal cortex, and I suppose Brendan, the biology teacher, will be an awful lot better to explain this than me. But in this front part of the brain is the impulse control, judgment, decision making, and planning for the future. Now, the rational part of the teenager brain is not fully developed until the age of 26 or that, you know, in around that 24, 25, 26. Yeah, so like that's why it frustrates me when you hear teachers in other schools saying start acting your age when they actually are, you know, a lot of the time, which I know still can be frustrating, but it's just to kind of, and I know plenty of 40 and 50-year-olds, I don't think it's still fully developed, you know, so but it's just to kind of give them that opportunity or give them that bit of space to try and work out what they want to do, which I know can be frustrating for parents' point of view. And I try and get across them, everything involves sacrifice. Everything includes some sort of cost, and no job or career is uplifting all the time. Okay, they need to be aware of that. There is some pitfalls as well. But I think if they start becoming aware of what struggle or sacrifice are you willing to tolerate. So maybe they like, you know, while some people don't like working with children, they may actually love it. I remember in other schools, I sat beside many a teacher that the three best things of teaching for them was June, July, and August. But there were awful people having the staff for them, you understand, you know, because they kept waiting for the holiday to come around. So very often this will give you the edge if you become aware of it. If you know there's something that, if the student knows there's something that they like doing that other people don't tend to like, whether that's working with numbers or reading or, you know, analyzing certain information, that could actually very likely give them the edge then when they're actually looking for employment. So there's a couple of the website guys, okay, which I strongly recommend. Careers Portal, really good website. Qualifax, them two are really, really good, okay. I would use them an awful lot, okay, so the students should be going on them continuously. And I think that's kind of really it then. I don't think there's really anything else much more. So I think that's it. So if anyone has any questions, they can put them in the chat box there for the people that are online. Just maybe I might say as well, we're just trying to emphasize to the students at the moment as well to make sure and stay safe, and this whole thing with the COVID. So we're trying to encourage them to use the hand sanitizer and wipe down the desks and so on. And not to be gathered in groups, and they're doing really, really well. And I know it's frustrating for everyone. Nobody has a crystal ball and it's difficult to know what's going to happen. However, it wouldn't surprise me if they actually give a bit of an extra week off after the Christmas break. Like, I think there's no debate about it. There's probably going to be house parties at Christmas and things like that. So I don't know this obviously for definite. I don't have a crystal ball, but there is a chance that they're going to give maybe an extra week at the end of the Christmas holidays, you know. So that's something to keep in mind. Like, in my view, they're going to go ahead with this Leaving Cert this year. You know, I can't see them going into the calculated grades. I can't see that happening. And the reason for that is because they want the points to come down. So this year, of all years, I'm actually really zoned in and talking to the students about trying to do the best they can and trying to motivate them as much as possible. But the motivation just needs to come from them. And that's why I'm giving out that study routine. I can't do it for them. I can help them with it, but the ownership is on them. Because I will be frustrated if they miss out on a particular course by 15 or 20 points, because it is going to be competitive this year. Because you have an awful lot of students that didn't get into courses last year, and they're going to be trying to get back in as well. So I'm trying to get that point across to students every day, just without putting too much pressure on them. And I suppose it's back to that CAO, if they're filling it out properly and they're embracing them choices. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is that choice to put down 6 or 7, that they can actually see themselves actually go over it, you know, or that choice at level 5. And I would see that, I'd see that very often, that sometimes the student that gets the choice 4, they could never be happier, you know, very often, you know. So just to try and take a little bit of time with the CEO and just make sure that they're making the best informed decision they can. Is that okay? Anyone, any questions there, guys, from the audience, or no? Oh, very quiet class in general. Yeah. A couple of messers down the back, but other than that, yeah. There's nothing in on the chat box. Anyone has anything in the chat box there, feel free to put it in.
There's a high percentage of kids that are probably going to will defer for next year. Isn't there? I mean, they were talking about thousands of kids that would have gone for very high point courses and obviously missed out, and it just due to the fact that the predicted grades raised everything by 40 to 50 points. So they've got a hill to climb with that, I think.
They're the students that didn't get in last year.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that's the reason I'm saying I think it's going to be very competitive. I think it's very unfortunate for the students last year. Some excellent, like, you know, really intelligent young people who worked so hard, and unfortunately they didn't get their courses, which is really frustrating. And I suppose the other side of that is what happens with them an awful lot of time is they're taking their option maybe in Europe and that as well, which is again really frustrating. Our best people are leaving the country, you know, which is frustrating. But yeah, I do think that's going to be making it a bit more competitive for them as well. Yeah. Someone says, Carl, any info resource available going to college in the United States? Yeah, so going to college in the United States, Andrew, if you can just put your email in there, I'll get back to you on that. You can just put your email, I'll get back to you on that. So that's the SAT exams. You have to do the SAT exams in order to get to America. So I can give you information on that. No problem at all. Anyone else, guys? No?
Very helpful. Thanks very
No problem
much.
at all. And so, you know, guys, you have my mobile number, so feel free to ring me. No problem at all. All right, you can help me with it. All right. Okay. Thanks very much. Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. All right. Thank you. Yeah. Through that all the way across. Yeah.
You were talking there with Jenny Ryan and Jackson. So he started out in engineering building. And he got the William Foundation. Which is totally yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Those people from America, absolutely. Right. Anyway, we got to January. It all went online then. for